All right, first off, we got a salary rate approval form from you. And we didn't approve it this morning.
Okay.
And the reason we didn't is anything that's an exceptional placement, we have the supervisors come and tell us about it and give us directions and understanding on a face-to-face so that we're on the same plane.
You got it.
And on the first one that come last week, we didn't get anything, and then there was a letter with
Right.
this one.
Yeah,
And,
that's fine.
and
I'm happy to have a discussion and come when you want me to.
let's talk about it right now.
Okay.
But we'll just take part of this.
Sure. What's happened is I have always tried to raise the level of the juvenile attorneys. I think that's a specialty, and that's borne out in most of the bigger offices around the state. Juvenile is a specialty, so I have some people in those jobs being paid at the higher rate. Stephanie wasn't because she was on the grant, and I was using, she was doing a split position. But now with the way they're counting child protective actions and the way those things go on forever, when Kent retires, I'm gonna have to have 3 full-time people in order to cover that. So this contemplates Stephanie moving to juvenile full-time.
When is Kent talking about retiring?
June. And I had requested that in my budget last year so that his payout is already
Right.
contemplated. And then I hired someone from Twin Falls that I'm starting at a misdemeanor rate, but then she loves, she was doing felonies in Twin Falls, but her true love is juvenile and child protection. So that's, when Kent retires, she will move into his space. In fact, we'll probably stop assigning Kent cases by the beginning of May, because those things go on so long that way it won't create problems down the road. It'll make them more seamless.
So this is filling a vacancy is what it says here,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
And you're asking for her salary to be above the person that she's replacing.
No, it's moving within the grant, so it's just moving her from a misdemeanor line to a felony line.
Okay.
It's not county money.
Well, it's all county money.
Well, that's true.
It's all
That's
county
true.
money.
That's true, and that's a long conversation that we're gonna have to have. Let's finish this one first, sorry.
But I guess my question is, we've never been told how far above, what the exception is. Why the exception? How much are we trying to pay extra that we wasn't paying before?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm moving her from a 17 to an 18. That's what it contemplates. It's just
So
moving up
one full step.
grade.
One grade, not a step, a grade.
And the person she was is replacing, what was their?
Doesn't exist, but that's what Jesselyn makes.
Was it a 17 or was it an 18? The
It was an
person,
18.
the one that she is
Yeah,
replacing.
as much as possible, because, the PDC didn't fund those positions at what they currently pay. They funded them at what a felony position paid 2 years ago.
Okay, and that's the questions that I needed answered is she, is it a promotion? And if it's a promotion, is it going into the same wage of the person that she's replacing? Because if that's what it is, it's not an exceptional placement to me.
Right.
It's just moving the person into the job that was already there,
It is,
and they're qualified to do the job.
it's adding another full-time juvenile person as opposed to a split-time person.
But
So
there-
it's moving her from one line to another because the job that she does now, that she will be doing now, requires more education and specialty than just handling misdemeanors.
Question?
But there's a person doing that work now that's
No.
retiring, or no?
No, there's no one doing that work right now because that's an unexpended line in the grant.
So it's open money that hasn't
Yeah.
been expended yet.
Right.
But you're moving an individual into that line that we've
From an
talked
empty
about.
line, right. From a line that she's currently in to an empty line.
So it'll leave an empty line. Yeah,
Yeah, and we'll spend less than the year's salary for that
right.
level, which they won't, the PDC will reduce the amount we receive next year by the amount that's left.
Okay.
Any further comments?
No.
And like I said, it's a process
I-
that
And I
we've
didn't
just
comply
required
with the
everybody
process. I
else.
apologize for that. You
So-
needed the information. Had I known to, I would have been here so that I could make that easier.
Okay.
I've been gone for 2 weeks again. You know
Right.
that.
We
Yeah.
understand that, and that's why we're,
I bought special pants to appear for you today.
hey,
I went and bought a pair that's a size too big.
long pants or shorts or what?
I'm not wearing shorts,
Look at
Hey, good man.
but I had to, there's still stitches in there, so.
And I just want you to know that John's sister in North Carolina is watching this, and she,
Yeah, so I'm sure they're quite entertained by this whole program.
Excellent.
I'd ask for a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the salary rate approval form as discussed.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, now let's go in and, in the budget, we're not going line by line and stuff, we're just kind of going over general stuff. I'm gonna ask John to share with you the feelings of the commission.
So this is pretty much the same speech we're giving everybody about what we're looking for as commissioners this year. So some of it may apply, some of it may not, but anyway, I'll just run through the whole thing. The first thing we're asking everybody is to keep the spending flat. We're looking for no increases in spending. And while we recognize there may be some areas where spending has to increase, we're looking to find other areas where perhaps there can be savings made to the greatest extent possible if you have to do some increases in spending. We are asking all the department heads to look at succession planning. If something were to happen to you that you would not be at work next week, who would take on your role? And we're looking for people to do cross-training, shadowing, whatever it takes to make sure that we don't have critical positions where if someone is not there one day, the department falls apart. That would include your role and whatever other critical roles you see within your department. We're asking everybody to take a look at the processes in their departments, to look for efficiencies that might be found there. We're looking at training, and to the extent possible, where you can find ways to reduce the training budget, and some of the ways that we've discussed, and there are some departments doing this, where they have their own people who are learning certain things that they can train on. So for example, in the Sheriff's Department, I think all the firearms training is done by deputies and that type of thing. So if you have people within your own department that can take on the training rather than sending them to outside classes and that type of thing, perhaps there's some savings that can be gained there. And Ryan this morning talked about some online training that you could have access to. With this Zoom stuff going on, there could be some cost savings there. And finally, we're asking people to look at, to the extent they can, grant funding, things of that nature that might be used to remove spending from the taxpayer-funded portion of the budget. And that's pretty much the whole spiel.
And so, we'll go ahead and turn some time over to you, just talk about budget, what your thoughts and feelings are, and what direction.
Okay, I'm largely in line with you. This is going to be the last time you have to do a budget with us. I'm not planning on asking for any spending. I'm not going to ask for computers. I'm not going to ask for furniture. I'm not going to ask for anything along those lines. We will have to have discussions at some point. I don't know if on these particular grants there's an agreement that all of the technology purchased, because all that money becomes county money at some point. I don't know what the county's intent is when it comes to desks and computers and things like that. A lot of the things that will be determined, I believe, probably starting in August. The state public defender should be hired in, I would guess, in July. I'm sure they won't wait too long. I'm sure they'll do it within a month. I know the governor wants to appoint somebody. Part of that is going to be probably, you'll be on that magistrate commission
Yeah.
group that goes to Boise to do the interviews for that job. I will not be putting in for that job. I have no interest in
Going to Boise?
going to Boise and arguing about budget for the rest of my professional life. I know some people that are, there's some excellent candidates that are going to put in. So I'm not gonna ask for anything because as a practical matter, the county's being required to make expenditures right now that you're just frankly not being refunded for. I know that's unfair. All I can do is do the best I can with what I have for the continuing year. I can't do with less people. I don't anticipate asking for anything else just because there's no reason for us to be adding when there's so much of our professional lives will be in flux at the outset of, and it's actually going to start on the county's fiscal year, so in October of '24.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether they can get all that done in that amount of time, I certainly hope so. I'm troubled by the funding that they've suggested. I think that some of the things like figuring out how much people are going to make, even justifying salaries from county to county, particularly with Ada County in the mix, is going to make everything very difficult. And I assume that whoever the state public defender is going to have to hit the ground running hard. And I know they're going to put together a transition team. Those will not be funded positions. I will do everything I can to be on that transition team so that this county is represented going forward and knowing what information can be passed along as quickly as possible so we can all make preparations as to how we go forward. One of the things that's required in the new statute is that the county continue to supply offices, but you don't supply offices, so that won't be a problem for this county.
Mm-hmm.
That will not be an ongoing cost. Computer services and things like that, there's $4 million in the transition fund. Honestly, I don't even know how they would fund a case management program in that amount of time for that amount of money. But they're going to have to be doing something, and we'll certainly make sure this area is represented. We get as much information as we can. And then my guess is a year from July is when they will have the interviews for the regional public defenders. That's going to be an odd position to begin with too, but it has, a couple benefits for this county. All the employees of this county, to the extent practicable, will automatically go to the state office. That's written into the statute, so they should be off your doles as soon as the fiscal year rolls around. There's going to have to be some negotiation. I don't know if the Idaho Association of Counties contemplated vacation time and things like that and the payouts on that, and whether or not the state should adopt that.
It's been talked about. I don't know where it is right now with the committee that's on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of money involved there, and I don't know if the state's going to be prepared to just say, well, we're going to transfer some of that vacation over and not charge you for it, or
Yeah.
those are negotiations that still have to happen. I would have liked to have seen some more of those things ironed out before we passed a statute and set a date certain, but
Went a lot quicker than I thought it would go.
yeah.
But,
Yeah, it went through the legislature fairly quickly, and I think after watching the first hearing, you knew how it was going to go, because when they called one witness on each side, gave him 2 minutes, and they called for the question. So it was pretty quick.
yeah.
As far as succession plan, Riley will take over as the assistant chief deputy when Kent retires.
And before you go into that, because we're going to talk about people and stuff, we'll go into the evaluation part
Oh, okay.
about that, as we're going to start talking about names and people
Sure,
and stuff
sure.
like that.
So, Mr.
So,
Chair,
we're good on budget? Okay.
okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we go into executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061, Prim A and B.
Commissioner Crowder,
Yes.
Chairman Moser,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutt.
Yes.